100% clean electric grid with an all-of-the-above strategy, any more than we got with an all-of-the-above strategy. It was an engineering challenge, and we are up to this as Americans. But incrementalism, half steps, splitting the loaf, that's not going to get us, and that's not what your generation wants. You want the straight truth, and you want us to face our challenges fearlessly and make this new reality ours.
What works for you in that, Jenny? Would you like to answer?
I think that's great. I think the environment's huge, obviously, especially for those of us that are going to be living a lot of years, hopefully. So, thanks.
Well, hopefully we'll still be there. All right, Arnold Woods. He is the president of the Des Moines NAACP. He's an Air Force veteran who served in Vietnam, and he says he is still undecided. Your question, sir?
Yes, I am undecided. And the question I have is, because of the extreme number of
you ready, sir?
Military personnel returning from war zones, combat zones with
I'm running a video camera. Is that all right with you guys?
What is your feeling to reestablishing the military draft? And for those who are not deemed worthy to go to military draft or to be drafted into the military, do you have any options for them where they can serve our country for a couple of years prior to going to college?
Hey, thank you. I have put forward in your state 15 strategic goals to move our country forward again, to rebuild the truth of the American dream, to get wages to go up, to make college more affordable and debt-free within the next 5 years, cut drug overdoses in half in the next 10 years, gun deaths in half in the next 10 years. But one of the goals is to cut youth unemployment in half in the next 3 years. And I propose to do that by making national service a universal option for every kid in America to serve their country in environmental restoration or in public health or in other avenues in addition to the military. And I believe that will not only allow our kids to go to college in a more affordable way, giving them an increased Pell Grant benefit, but I also know that it'll do a great deal to tap that goodness within the next generation and bring it forward, bring their ethic forward. Let me talk a little bit about veterans, because another one of my strategic goals is full employment for the veterans of ours who come home from Iraq and Afghanistan. We do a very poor job of transitioning our veterans back to civilian life. And I have found, as a governor attacking this problem, that the key is employment. Talking to our veterans about employment. There is absolutely no handoff between the Defense Department and Veterans Affairs, let alone our state departments of Veterans Affairs. And in fact, on the DD-214, the discharge form that veterans fill out, there's not even a box on there for an email address. And a lot of our veterans become ghost people. We might catch up with them eventually at the hospital. We might catch up with them at the county jail. We're a better nation than this, and we need to have a transition program so that none of our veterans slip through the cracks, and we need to make the first goal so that we can then get to the post-traumatic stress issues, mental health, and other things. First goal needs to be for employment, because every person needs to be needed, and we need our veterans back here every bit as much as we need them abroad.
Got another question for you, Governor Deborah Plummer. She's from Drake University, undecided, has a question about the economy for you.
Good evening, Governor.
Hi.
My question is, do you have any specific plans to grow the economy at a rate that will increase job growth for those, so that those who are long-term unemployed or fallen out of the workforce will have an opportunity to get back in?
Sure, yes. Let me talk a little bit about our economy. Prior to President Obama's good work, and he's done great work, saved us from the second Great Depression, from the recklessness and the greed on Wall Street. Our nation's creating jobs again. We're the only species on the planet without full employment, so jobs are important, right? Without jobs, nothing works very well. But here's another thing that doesn't work very well in America, unless it's going in the right direction, and that is wages. For the first time this side of World War II, 70% of us are earning the same or less than we did 12 years ago. So as I look at this, I believe that we need to first and foremost remember that our economy is not money, it is people. It is all of our people. And we need to restore common sense wage and labor policies that make wages rise again. Things we used to do Democrats and Republicans together all the time, like keeping the minimum wage above the poverty line, paying overtime pay for overtime work. How about this? The long-deferred promise of equal pay for equal work for men and women. Making it easier for people to join labor unions instead of harder. And here's another one to make wages go up instead of being a drag on wages. Let's get 11 million of our neighbors out of the underground shadow economy by passing comprehensive immigration reform with a pathway to citizenship for all. Governor, but there's and two other brief ones on this. I'm the first candidate in either party to put forward a new agenda for America's cities. America's cities are where we have some of the worst problems of structural unemployment and where we can do the most good with investments in mobility, mass transit, a new era of workforce housing, making our cities the leading edge to this clean, green environment. And then the third piece I come back to again is squaring our shoulders to climate change and training people to actually be part of the retrofitting and the distributed energy future that is America's.
Governor, talk to the audience about points of contrast between you and Senator Sanders when it comes to the economic plan. So much is made of him being a self-described democratic socialist. Do you see yourselves as that different when it comes to the economy?
Yeah, look, my story is not the story of a democratic conversion. My story is the story of a democratic upbringing. And my parents taught me that the stronger we make our country, the more our country can give back to ourselves and to our children. And so I believe in fair market American capitalism. And I also, as part of those 15 strategic goals, believe, as Woodrow Wilson believes, that freedom, economic freedom, also means freedom from monopoly. I would agree. And I would actually agree with Senator Sanders in this sense, Chris. We have reached a point where there's been such a concentration of corporate wealth and power in the hands of so few that it's taking opportunity out of the homes of the many. And whenever that happens, there's only two paths forward, and only one of them is good. And that is a sensible rebalancing based on the common good we share. We need to push back on these concentrations of corporate power, Wall Street, big banks, but other places as well. You know, here in Iowa, a farmer told me that 12 years ago they used to have about a dozen packing houses. Now they only have 4 or 5. Hog farmers are more productive than ever, but they're getting a lower price for them. Our economy is an ecosystem, you know, and the center of that ecosystem is a stronger middle class. In other words, the stronger we make our middle class, the more our economy grows. And that's what we've lost track of in these 30 years of trickle-down economics. The more our workers earn, the more they spend, the more our economy grows. And no, I will say this, though, Chris. I think that I do believe that the fundamentals of American capitalism are still strong. But we need to shake ourselves out of this trickle-down nonsense that says concentrate wealth, remove regulation, and keep wages low. Low wages for America is not an America that's working. We need wage policies that make wages go up.
The gentleman standing up on your right is Brian Carlson. He's a student at Drake University. He says he's leaning towards supporting Hillary Clinton. He says he wants to talk about discrimination in the workplace. And he has a question.
Last year's Supreme Court decision granting full marriage equality was truly monumental for the LGBT community across the nation. But we still face a hard battle ahead, especially in the areas of employment and housing. In many states, we still face discrimination. I was wondering, what would you do as president to help us to acquire full equality in those areas on the federal level?
I believe that the genius of this American experiment is that in every generation we take action to include more people more fully in the economic, the social, and the political life of our country. That's the broader arc of American history. We've yet to arrive at a perfect union, but every generation we have the opportunity to make it a more perfect union. In my own state, we were one of the very first to pass after ballot marriage equality. I also passed the transgender anti-discrimination bill in the state of Maryland as well. And it's interesting, you know, the common ground we found to get these things done is this. It's really about our kids. It's about all our kids. And there were some people in Maryland who said we might not be able to pass marriage equality. And we made the argument all about the truth, that there is dignity in every child's home. And every child's home needs to be protected equally under the law. One of the most powerful beliefs we share is our belief in the dignity of every person. That's what's motivated me and the common good that we share. And I will do everything in my power to move us forward as a nation and make us more inclusive in every possible way I can, across the board, because that's what makes us stronger as a country. Thank you.
Governor, you were talking about farming, the status of it here in Iowa. We have a question for you about that. This is Jana Ritterman. She's president of the Iowa Farmers Union. She says she's leaning toward Clinton, but she's a fourth-generation farmer. She has a question about the region.
First, I just want to say I love that you mentioned the problem of market concentration in the egg sector. Thank you so much.
Yeah, not great for family farms, is it?
Not too great now. There's not nearly as many of us as there used to be.
Right.
My question is about beginning farmers. I'm a beginning farmer. The average age of farmers in the United States right now is about 57 years old, and that number goes up a little bit each year. For beginning farmers, a group that includes a growing number of veterans, women farmers like me, and other groups, we do have some opportunities with innovative business models that include more diversified farms, more sustainable farming practice, but there aren't nearly enough of us. We know that a lot of farmers are going to be retiring in the next decade, and there aren't enough people to replace them. So my question is, after decades of roll-out migration and farm consolidation, what can we do, what would you do to provide opportunities and invest in a new generation of family farms for the country?
Thank you. I think this is a big part of the future for rural America. Sustainable economies, the ability to consume and to grow and to do that within the footprint of this place that we call home. And so I would like to work with Congress, and I plan to work with Congress to do more in the Farm Bill to reduce the barriers of entry to new farmers as they start up. Huge capital costs that go into buying the land and buying the equipment, but it's also what's best for keeping our rural economies, and it's best for America. So I've seen in my own state a whole movement to the buy local movement and the sort of farming that you described. We need to do more as a nation to encourage young farmers to go into farming, to reduce those barriers and those capital costs, even at the same time that we push back against the concentration of monopoly power in the agricultural sector. And that's what I intend to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. We know that you are working this whole state, and you're going for the goal. You're in it to win. I understand. But you can make an argument that you are the most important person that we're going to have in this room tonight, whether or not you're going to win. Here's why. As you know, there is a 15% rule in a lot of these caucuses. So if you don't have 15% of the caucuses in that room, those men and women have to go to a different candidate. So if you don't have that, and your followers now have to go to someone else, people who support you, what is your suggestion to them?
This sounds like a process question. Look, here's my suggestion to them. What I have put together a terrific organization, or we have put together a terrific organization all across this state, Chris. And one of the reasons why the polls back east can never figure out how the caucuses work is because it's a very organic thing. And so my message to the O'Malley supporters across this state is this: hold strong at your caucus. Hold Hold strong at your caucus because America is looking for a new leader. America is scanning the horizon. We cannot be this fed up with our gridlocked, dysfunctional national politics and think that a resort to old ideologies or old names is going to move us forward. So I tell my people, hold strong. I know this is a tough fight, but I've always been drawn to a tough fight. I believe the toughness of the fight is the way the hidden God has of telling us we're actually fighting for something worth saving. Our country's worth saving. The American dream is worth saving. This planet is worth saving. America needs new leadership, and I need the O'Malley supporters out there on caucus night to hold strong and move forward like Iowa does.
All right, let's bring in Benjamin Polidori. He grew up in Iowa. He's now a law student. He says he's leaning towards supporting you on Monday. He has an important question.
Yes, so Governor O'Malley.
Now, this is going to give you a chance to wrap up your main pitch. This is Benjamin Polidori. We'll give you 30 seconds, the same thing we gave to Senator Sanders, but go ahead.
So yeah, right on cue with that, you're aware that national polls continue to show you trailing Secretary Clinton and Senator Sanders. So to those that are still undecided like me, or maybe just less informed about politics, on top of what you've already talked about, what's the last thing that you would try to tell them to convince them that you are in fact the best candidate for the Democratic Party?
Okay, thank you. This is what I would say. I would say that time and time again in the history of the state of Iowa, Iowa has found a way to sort through the noise and to sort through the national polls and to lift up a new leader for our country at times when that was critical and essential. That's what you did 8 years ago when you lifted up Barack Obama to lead our country forward. And we need to build upon his good work by continuing to move forward. And I am the only one of the three of us who has a track record, not of being a divider, but of bringing people together to get meaningful things done. Raising the living wage, making college more affordable, creating jobs, healing wounds and divisions. That's what our country needs right now. We are a great people. We are a generous and we are a compassionate people. And we are far better than the sort of fascist rhetoric that you hear spewed out by Donald Trump. The enduring symbol of our country is not the barbed wire fence. It is the Statue of Liberty. And we And so I'm not here to praise you, Iowa. I'm here to challenge you. Lift up a new leader, because you can change the course of this presidential race. You can shift this dynamic on caucus night. I know you can. I've seen you do it before. There is nothing so divided about our national politics that it cannot be healed with a renewed faith in one another and new leadership. That's what I have to offer. My candidacy is in your hands. Do with it as you will. But I think it's important, in order to move our country forward, that once again Iowa lift up a new leader so that we can make America the compassionate, generous, and inclusive place that we need it to be. Thanks.
Thank you. Our thanks to Governor O'Malley. Hillary Clinton is in the wings. She's ready to face these Iowa voters next.
So since you have AT&T and DirecTV, you can get our new unlimited data plan. Unlimited data. So we're like rich. You're data rich. Data rich.
I think we can get used to being data rich.
Get data rich. Get unlimited data on 4 lines for $180 a month when you have AT&T Wireless and DirecTV.
Its sleek design is mold-breaking. Its intelligent drive systems, paradigm-shifting. Its technology-filled cabin, jaw-dropping. Its performance, breathtaking. Its self-parking and self-braking, show-stopping. The all-new GLC. Mercedes-Benz resets the bar for the luxury SUV, starting at $38,950. This guy.
The Commission finds no national interest in continuing to import lesser skilled and unskilled workers to compete in the most vulnerable parts of our labor. Many American workers do not have adequate job prospects. We should make their task easier to find employment, not harder.
Equal White Numbers USA.
Yeah, I like this right here. Makes me feel free. Let's escape. I'm free to do what I want and have a good time. That's what I'm doing. Just I feel free. Do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whoever you want. Feel free. Who cares what they say? Just live your life, cause we don't live twice. Feel free. Get the ship to cruise the world.
Book now and choose from 4 free offers, up to $1,600 in value. Norwegian Cruise Line. Feel free.
Check this out, bro. What's that, Brahim? I switched to Geico to get more savings on car insurance? Yeah, Professor. And more, like renter's insurance. More ways to save. Nice protein chip. That's not all protein shake. Geico has motorcycle and RV insurance, too. Ooh. That's a lot more. Oh, yeah. I'm all about what Teddy Roosevelt.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
Every day you read headlines about businesses being hacked and intellectual property being stolen. That is cybercrime, and it affects each and every one of us. Microsoft created the Digital Crimes Unit to fight cybercrime. We use the Microsoft Cloud to visualize information so we can track down the criminals.
When it comes to the cloud, trust and security,
we're building what we learned back into the cloud to make people and organizations safer.
Welcome back to the CNN Democratic Presidential Town Hall here at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa. As you've seen, tonight is something different. It is a chance for the voters of Iowa to question the candidates directly. Next up, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Good to see you. Interesting weekend for you. Boston Globe, endorsement. Des Moines Register, endorsement. Maybe the best accolade, President Obama gave an interview, talked about this race, seemed to get more into it than he has in the past. He said, you're, quote, wicked smart. Knows every policy inside and out. Sounds like an endorsement.
I was really touched and gratified when I saw that. People here in Iowa remember we ran a really hard race against each other. And then I had the opportunity when he asked me to serve as his Secretary of State. And it not only was a great working relationship, it turned into a real friendship. And he knows how hard the job is, and he knows it firsthand. So I really appreciated what he said and how he said it, because it was a positive reflection on what we have to get done and how hard it's going to be, and therefore the stakes in the election are really high. And I think that's what voters are beginning to really tune into, starting here now.
He says also, you get undue criticism. And he says, and by the way, I have some regrets about my campaign and some of the things we did. Was that surprising?
Yes, it was surprising. I really appreciated him saying that, because he said that, he had that great line, which I love. I think he said something like, she had to do, he said, I was like Fred Astaire, and she had to do everything I had to do, only she was Ginger Rogers doing it backwards in high heels. And I thought that was a really very sweet remark. But, I understand that you get into the arena and you are going to get pummeled and pushed and criticized. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't think it was absolutely necessary to try to build on the progress that we've made under President Obama against great we've got to do everything we possibly can not to let the Republicans rip away the progress and turn us backwards. That would be such a loss for our country. We need to build on it and go further, and that's what I'm trying to do in my campaign and talking about all the issues that I think are on the minds of the people I speak to across the state.
And we get to do that tonight. We're going to get questions right from the voters. 2008, we're talking about, here you are again, another election. Praise and promise coming your way, but another nail-biter with a self-described socialist named Bernie.
Right.
How did that happen?
Look, it's a great country, despite what one of the Republicans says. It's a great country, and we are all on the Democratic side having a spirited debate about the issues we care about. I'm so proud. You've seen my two Democratic opponents, and the three of us have run a campaign talking about the differences we have on issues. That's totally fair. That's what we want you to know. The other side is not talking issues, they're talking insults. So I'm proud of the campaign we've run and what we've put out there before the American people. And it's a tough campaign, and it should be, because it's the hardest job in the world. You have to pick a president and a commander-in-chief, and you want to really vet the people that are running, and I'm really having a good time going around talking and listening to folks. And on Monday, the people in Iowa get to be the first people in the world, Chris, to express an opinion about who should be president and commander-in-chief and what they want to see as our nominee to go up against the Republicans.
So let's do that right now. Let's help them. We have Taylor Gipple, Iowa native, first-time caucus goer, leaning Sanders, but has a question for Secretary Gipple.
Let me help you up here.
It feels like there's a lot of young people like myself who are very passionate supporters of Bernie Sanders, and I just don't see the same enthusiasm from younger people for you. In fact, I've heard from quite a few people my age that they think you're dishonest, but I'd like to hear from you on why you feel the enthusiasm isn't there.
Well, I think it really depends upon who you're seeing and talking to. You know, today in Oskaloosa, I spent time with about 10 high school students who are enthusiastically working for me. I see young people across the state who are doing the same. But I'm totally happy to see young people involved in any way. That's what we want. And we want to have a good primary to pick a nominee, and then we want to have everybody join together to make sure we win in November, which after all is the purpose of this whole campaign. And so, you know, look, I've been around a long time. People have thrown all kinds of things at me. And, you know, I can't keep up with it. I just keep going forward. They fall by the wayside. They come up with these outlandish things. They make these charges. I just keep going forward because there's nothing to it. They throw all this stuff at me, and I'm still standing. But if you're new to politics, if it's the first time you've really paid attention, you go, oh my gosh, look at all of this. And you have to say to yourself, why are they throwing all of that? Well, I'll tell you why. Because I've been on the front lines of change and progress since I was your age. I have been fighting to give kids and women and the people who are left out and left behind a chance to make the most out of their own lives. And I've taken on the status quo time and time again. I have had many, many millions of dollars spent against me. When I worked on health care back in '93 and '94, and I don't know if you were born then. I can't quite tell. But if you'd been around and had been able to pay attention, I was trying to get us to universal health care coverage, working with my husband. Boy, the insurance companies, the drug companies, they spent millions, not just against the issue, but against me. And I kept going. And when we weren't successful, I turned around and said, at least we're going to get health care for kids. And we got the Children's Health Insurance Program working with both Democrats and Republicans, and 8 million kids have insurance because of that today. So you gotta keep going. You can't give up. You can never get knocked off course. That's my That's my hope for you and for all the young people who are getting involved this first time. Don't get discouraged. It's hard. If it were easy, hey, there wouldn't be any contest. But it's not easy. There are very different visions, different values, different forces at work. And you have to have somebody who is a proven fighter, somebody who has taken them on and won and kept going and will do that as president. That's why I hope you'll reconsider.
We have another voter for you to work on, Elena Dietz, an Iowa native, first-time caucus goer. She says she's also leaning toward Bernie, but she's giving you a chance for the question.
Great.
Secretary Clinton, earlier this month, Vice President Joe Biden said you are a newcomer to the issue of income inequality, while praising Senator Sanders for his authentic voice on the issue. How do we know that you will keep this issue a top priority?
Well, I have the greatest respect for the Vice President, but I think it's fair to say that I have a 40-year record of going after equality. And not only economic inequality, racial inequality, sexist inequality, homophobic inequality, the kinds of things that go after people to put them down and push them back. So since I was a young lawyer, my first job in the Children's Defense Fund, I took on the problem of juveniles in adult jails. What kind of inequality can you imagine that is worse than that? Taking a child and putting them in with adult prisoners. And we went right after that to change that. I went after schools that were being turned into private schools that were really there because they wanted to escape integration in the South. I went by myself down to Alabama to do investigation because, again, inequality stalks our education system. I was on the Legal Services Corporation. I chaired the board. Inequality is also about not being able to get a lawyer. You can't afford them. You can't stand up and have your voice heard and have your case adjudicated. So I have a really long history of taking on all kinds of inequality. And when I went to Beijing in 1995 and said human rights were women's rights and women's rights were human rights, that was a statement about inequality, economic inequality, education inequality, cultural inequality, every kind of inequality you can imagine. Now, when you focus just narrowly on economic inequality, I've also been in that fight. I was in that fight during my husband's administration, and let's remember what happened there. At the end of 8 years, we not only had 23 million new jobs, what was most important is incomes grew for everybody, not just those at the top. More people were lifted out of poverty, incomes rose in the middle and working people, and today in Knoxville, in my town hall, I called on a man and he said, "We never had it so good, except when your husband was president, because we tackled income inequality and produced results. Not talk, action, and that's what I will do as president."
Another question for you. Secretary Dick Goodson. He's the chairman of the Des Moines Committee on Foreign Relations. He's likely going to caucus for you next week, unless you mess it up right.
Oh, okay, I'll try not to.
Your question, sir.
Madam Secretary, before I ask my question, I have a quick comment, and that is that I was a lukewarm